Hi, Phil. So I'm really excited to share the details of the neuroscience informed coach training program with those who are here on this, have landed on this video and are excited to learn more. So I'm wondering, as a starting point, if you could speak a little bit to your experience, what led you to the world of neuroscience and the world of coaching, and how you've come to combine the two.
Okay, well, I'll try and be brief, but it's a little bit of a long story. So I started off as a chemistry teacher. That was my degree was in chemistry and teaching. So I've always been sort of passionate on teaching and also transformation. So it's like an alchemy right there. Um, and I started teaching. I really enjoyed it up until the point where the kids got a bit much and I lost patience. And I was very young. I was only sort of 24, 25 at the time. I thought, this isn't for me. And luckily, I had a back door, which was my family business, which was holiday lets. I got very, very stressed with it. Holiday hospitality can be pretty stressful. Got very, very stressed, very, very anxious. Ended up with chronic fatigue syndrome. Wasn't in a very nice place. And I went to a mindfulness-based stress reduction course, and that really helped me a lot. And someone gave me a book called The Buddha's Brain by Rick Hanson. And it just blew me away. I was like, "What? This is what's happening in my brain. This is why meditation works. This is why people practice mindfulness and things like this." And it all just made so much sense to me. So I was like, "Right, that's where it's at." And so I got really into all that, really into stress management. I started giving workshops and talks on that in the local area. And then I realized that I didn't have any qualifications in it. So I got a master's in neuroscience and psychology and mental health at King's College. Learned an awful lot there. Really, really interesting. Great. Then I carried on doing workshops. I was a bit more confident with what I was talking about. Um, and then I sort of stumbled across coaching because I thought I want to help people sort of on a one-to-one basis, but I didn't really fancy therapy. I was more interested in getting people from this sort of stuck in a rut kind of thing and pushing them forwards into an upward spiral, or stopping them slip into a downward spiral rather than getting them out of that downward spiral of depression, anxiety, whatever. So that's how I got into coaching. I did my coaching with certificate with Barefoot, like you, I think, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Which I loved, and then it went from there. And then after I did that, I there were certain sort of gaps that I thought I need to know more about this. And for me, the real passion was in the sort of belief systems and the really deep work because I think there is this thing about, well, I found this belief and I'm not very confident, and then I write it on a post-it note and I check in the bin and that's that. And it's like, well, it didn't sit right with me, especially when you do it in practice and they come back the next week and say, well, I still don't feel very confident. Okay. So I got really into, I did a course in belief updating from the Belief Clearing Institute. And I did another training in EFT, which is tapping, which is sounds weird, but it can be very effective if you do it right.
Yeah.
And that's all about finding the belief, the correct belief. They all have these nuances and they're very, very well hidden. And that's a real skill. So anyway, so that's where I'm at now. And then I decided through sort of my teaching background and the workshops, and what happened is over the course of those last 12 years I've been doing all this stuff is I sort of built up these structures in my mind about how it all works and how it all pins together. And I've read tons and tons of books on it. And there's nothing out there that will sufficiently sort of explains what's going on when you're talking about transformation and neuroscience. And so I thought, well, I'm going to do it. And so I've taken all these years, and it's all about connecting all the dots. And when you see people talk about things in real life and how that really works in the background, and that's what I got really interested in. So I created this structure, and I'm really, really excited that I get to share that with other people. I think sometimes I reckon it's a bit like when you've got your favorite film, and you say, "Have you seen that film?" And someone says, "No, I haven't seen it." And you go, "Oh, you have to see it, you have to see it." And that's how I feel about like the sort of subconscious beliefs and all this really deep transformational work. It's like, oh, if you're coaching and you haven't really got this stuff, this is such a great thing to know, and that's what I love to sort of gift to people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my background.
I love that. It feels like at the time we're recording this, we're in the run up to Christmas, right? And I'm noticing I've got my little Christmas tree over my shoulder. So um it feels like a Christmas gift, like the gift that you're really excited to find out what's inside, and you're kind of ripping off the wrappers, and then when you get there, like it's even more exciting than what you thought it might be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the program in terms of the 3 modules, what you're going to be covering, so that people get an idea for the content.
For the first module is towards and away, and this is basically a lot of neuroscience and also psychology, psychological studies, bit of evolutionary stuff as well. And this is about the sort of universal threat networks, I call them. And because essentially when you're coaching, the very simplest level, you're helping get someone from A to B, right? And that's where the word coach comes from. I don't know if you know about that stuff, but so on that journey from A to B, and that could be a small journey, like
Yeah.
I want to get a new job or something, or it could be a very big journey. Like I want to find inner peace,
Mm.
So this A to B, and there's lots of A to B. There could be lots of A to Bs in the middle, but essentially, what I'm saying is that there are things that get in the way, and these are essentially the threat network. So it could be overwhelm, ambiguity, disconnection from people, lots of different things, and these are things that put you in an avoidance state.
Mm.
So they kind of hinder this journey from A to B. But then you've got the sort of anti-correlated networks, they're called, like the opposite ones, and they put you in a towards state. And if you can help your client get into that towards state by helping them, encourage them with trust in themselves, connection, all these different things, including the alliance, obviously the coaching alliance, you can help push them forward from A to B. So it's about taking away those sort of sleeping policemen in the A to
Yeah.
B, and but also sort of giving them in a push in their direction as well. So that's the first module, and that will be a lot of that will be peer learning. I want to try and encourage peer learning during that period. So we're using these threat networks and the anti-correlated systems as like an anchor or sort of starting point. But I think it'd be really nice because these coaches, they'll all have so many different experiences and different tools. If they can learn from each other using those anchor points.
Mm.
So I think that'd be really nice. And also I think that would build trust and connection between the group, because as we go forward, it's going to become a little a little less sort of comfortable in terms of the things we'll be covering.
Yeah.
And also there will be sort of tools that we're using that we're talking about beliefs, for example, in the third module, where you're going to need that trust, because you won't be doing coaching sessions as such, but you'll be practicing different tools that you can use going forward to help find these beliefs and update. And that you do have to have a certain level of trust between one another, and hope that will be built throughout the course, and especially in module 1.
Yes.
Module 2 is top down and bottom up. So this is we're starting off with top down perception. So that's really quite basic in terms of, when I say top down, I'm talking about sort of logical networks. So it's changing our perception just with semantic networks, we call them. We'll cover all that, don't worry. And really that's saying, is that a fact? Is that true? And quite often they'll say, well, no, it's not true. And sometimes that's enough. And they'll say, it's not true. I know that. And we can put that to bed. But quite often it's not enough. And that's covered in module 3, because it's the deep subconscious emotional learning. And the top down stuff just won't cut it. But like I say, sometimes it's enough, and we'll cover that quickly. We'll also cover the neuroscience of habits and taking action. That's really important as well. And then the sort of most of the module 3 then is covered by the bottom up stuff, and that's where it starts to get really interesting from my point of view. And I think you're in agreement. And that's sort of going into the somatic stuff, and also and really important is as well, that people don't talk about a lot, is something I call the attentional networks, and balancing those out. So most people these days have that all wrong, and that can lead to burnout and things like this. And really what they're doing a lot of the time is they're using something called the stimulus driven attentional networks a lot. I'm watching my phone, I'm watching TV, I'm eating all at the same time, I'm going to work, and they never stop, and they find it very hard to turn off. And this needs to be balanced with things like the core self network, which is essentially mindfulness. It's being present, it's being in your body, it's about noticing things, it's about not labeling things. And then you've got the default mode network, which is worry and all these things. So we need to balance all that, and it makes a big difference to the way people feel and act. So we've got that. We've got the somatic stuff, and then so we're talking about bottom up. Then the third module will be really we'll be really concentrating on schema and belief systems, and this is a big deal. This is my favorite thing really when it comes to coaching. It's when you sit with someone and you find, I feel like I'm a belief sleuth. That's what I call it sometimes. It's like it's not easy to find these subconscious beliefs sometimes. It's a real skill, and when you find that they're very nuanced, it's not like I'm not confident or something like that. They're based. They're still stuck in the past. It's like my dad didn't turn up today. Um, he'd rather see his friends. That means there's something wrong with me. That's how specific they can be, and it's only when you really find them you can what we call reconsolidate them, which is changing the memory. And
Yeah.
essentially, you're saying, you're holding up. It's a lot to explain in a short video, but you're holding up. And you're making this what you call prediction error. So you can let go of that and realize it's not true, and bring in the truth, the objective truth instead, and that changes you as a person. And so you've got all that stuff, and we're talking about the neuroscience of memory and how that all and relates to the creation of these schema or belief systems. But we'll also be talking a little bit on trauma as well, and small t trauma. Really, we don't go into big T trauma. And also something really important as well when it comes to sort of personal development, growth, but also burnout and things like that. And that's the split when we're young. We start off whole. I like to think of it as a white light, and then through small T trauma, it might even be your parent looks at you in a funny way. In fact, I had this client once, and they said they were talking about why they couldn't feel confident in certain situations, and they said, I remember we did this tour where you go back and and they said they remember they were dancing around, expressing themselves and just being joyful. And they're practicing some play or something. And they said they remember their mum looking in the mirror and said, I hate show-offs. And that just shut it down. And that's how you split as a child, because what you do then is you exile those parts of yourself, and you lock them in the broom cupboard. You say, that's not acceptable. I can't be loved if I behave like that. And that's a really sad thing. And part of coaching, from my point of view, is really about reclaiming those parts of yourself, because that's a really, really powerful thing to do, because it causes suffering to have them suppressed all the time, for one, but also, they have gifts, they have unique gifts that really, really can help you. So that's one part of it. And then the second part of it is a big thing again with burnout, like, and all sorts of suffering, and is an over identification. So you might learn during this split as a child that in order to get acceptance and love, I have to be more like this. I have to be perfect. I have to always strive. I have to give 100%, always, always, always. Oh, and then you over-identify with those things, and that's who you become. And really, that just that's not who you are, but that's who you think you are. And really, so it's just a turning. It's just, you turn the volume down. You don't, there's still value in that. So you turn the volume down, that you allow the exiled or the broom cupboard ones back in, and then you're whole again. And it's a really incredible thing to be able to do, and to bring into your practice. So that kind of covers it all, I think, almost.
Oh, it's fabulous. Fabulous overview. I'm super excited for it myself. I'm really looking forward to welcoming in all of the delegates that step into this program with us, that we're going to take them through quite a transformational journey, because like any of the programs with Balanceology, they're all experiential. So you're reflecting all the way through on yourself, on your own beliefs, you're working at that level so that you can then meet others and facilitate in the same way. So I'm really excited for what will come from the program for those that join it individually, but also as a group, because there's something amazing about the group experience when, as you say, there's a well-held space with trust and rapport being cultivated, and people being able to really go there with each other. So I'm very excited for this, Phil, and looking forward to the first cohort, which will begin in the new year. So, and if you would like to jump on a call with either of us to find out more about the programme, you'll find a link to do that below, or you can just pop over an email to hello@balanceology.uk. All right. Thank you so much, Phil, and we'll see
No
you
problem. Nice to talk to
on
you.
the programme. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Take care. Bye bye.